Thank you all for showing up. Welcome, Chief. I want to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. You know, we all are very busy. Members of the council, if it's okay, we have a really full schedule. So if we could just do a quick, brief introduction, that would be awesome. I would appreciate that. Mike, since you're up in my top left-hand corner, do you want to start? We'll do Brady Bunch style.
Mike Kruchowski, this is concluding soon, my 5th year on the Southeast. And so unless there's an influx of new folks to join to improve our diversity, I will probably bow out at the end of next year, my 6th year in the CPC.
Awesome. I'm Susie Sanchez-Begg. I chair the Southeast Area Council, Community Policing Council. I also work in the International District. I help run transitional housing for people in recovery, as well as I work at the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice. I've been on the council for 3-ish years. I guess I should keep better track. So welcome. Yes. Who's next? Again. Jeff, do you want to go next?
Yeah,
Okay, we lost him. Hi, Angelo.
Hello.
We're doing quick introductions. If you would like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Okay. Hello, my name is Angelo Raglin. I'm a CNM student. My major is criminology, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ron, I see your name back up. Are you back with us? Maybe not. Jeff, are you back with us?
yes, I am. Sorry about
Awesome.
that.
No,
Had a
you're
phone
good.
call right in the middle. Jeffrey Archuleta, been on the CPC for a little over, I guess, 4 years. I'm not too sure either, unfortunately. But I work here. I'm a retired Navy. Work here in the International District at the VA Hospital, healthcare for homeless veterans as an employment specialist. And just want to thank everybody for participating. And as Susie says, everybody's got busy schedule, but it's always nice to see a little effort on everybody's part in the community to put forth. Look forward to tonight's session. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see, is Ron back on? Do you see him, Kelly?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay.
His box.
Okay. Maybe not. Hi, Ron. Can you hear us, Ron?
Now he's frozen.
Okay, well,
Hello.
when he
Hello. I'm struggling to call by the internet, but the connections here is pretty weak. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well, yes, thanks for trying to get on with us, and hopefully we'll keep you for the meeting. All right. Thank all of our wonderful guests this evening. We're looking forward to hearing everybody's presentations. I would like to ask my council to review and for approval of the agenda as it stands. You can either go by raise of hand or you can verbalize your response.
I just have a question, Susie. What's IAFTD? The other acronym spelled out. What's IAFTD or IAFD?
Oh, great. Ask me a question that I'm going to have to remember to look up.
Sorry.
Internal Affairs
Force.
Yes, thank you. See, we have
Thank
all the
you,
right
Chief.
people to answer those questions. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you, Chief. Okay, I'll wait for a motion.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second,
Second.
okay,
Oh,
thank you,
are
Mike.
With us?
Yeah, Mike, yeah, I know, he took a minute there, thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from the September meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and does anybody have any changes, questions, concerns? If not, then I will entertain a motion.
Will it be updated with the Zoom link to the recording on the city website?
I don't want to answer that, Kelly. Yes, no,
Martisa?
Martisa?
Yes, it will. We'll take care of it.
Okay, yep, there you go, Mike, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes then, Susie.
Okay, thank you, Jeff
Second.
and Ron. Show of hands, anybody? Angelo?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Then we move that forward. Next, we have Chief Medina. Thank you, sir, for coming. I know how busy you are. We look forward to hearing the information that you're going to share with us.
Thank you. I just want to tell everybody thanks. And, I want to get started with thanking Commander Yada. He's getting ready to retire. And I went to retirement last week for him. And there's, such support from the community. And Johnny has just been a stand-up commander, and he will be greatly missed. He was one of those people that just was totally engaged with his officers, finding ways to strike that balance with good community outreach and good, strong enforcement. And I just want to thank you, Johnny, for the past 3 years and everything you did for the Southeast. And with that, Commander Langwit is taking over. I really believe in a transfer of roles, and that's why I tried to get Commander Langwit out there early so that him and Johnny can work together and we have a soft handoff. I hated when I took over as Southwest Commander and I got there and there was nobody there to tell me about any of the relations. The good thing was I had been there my whole career, so it kind of made it a little easier. I just want to give a couple updates on two sides, on the settlement agreement side and on the law enforcement side. On the law enforcement side, we continue to have increases in some of our violent crime categories, but we have had a very successful 45 days. We had an operation that we call Turn the Tide. We gave a lot of resources temporarily to investigations to make sure that they could get some of these homicide and violent cases done. There's been a tremendous amount of arrests, and we are seeing a little bit of improvement in our homicide numbers. We had a much better September than we have had in other months, and so far October is we're getting good spacing between our homicides. We will continue to work and distribute resources as appropriate. But this kind of leads into, the reform side. I want to be very clear that, I support the reform efforts. I think it's important. I think we could do both, but I don't think that one is more important than the other. I think they both have to go hand in hand, and we are dividing resources between both of them. But we are working very closely with DOJ locally, and we're making sure that we find ideas how we could supplement the settlement side with as many civilians as possible. We've opened positions, increased some of our units that kind of monitor statistics and build scorecards for us, which I think is important for us to get a good gauge of where we're at. We're hiring a data person who's going to help us once and for all fix our data and really help us become that data-driven department that we want to be. Yes, I have been very open in the public saying that, we have to modify processes, and it's a balance, and that the balance has to go both ways. But I also recognize that the number one issue in the city is crime, and we have to address it. So I just had a few things there to cover. We do have some other commanders retiring. We have also 47 cadets graduating tomorrow, so we're adding to our numbers. We have had a number of retirements and resignations this year, but it's in line with what a lot of other agencies are seeing. I was talking to Tim Johnson from State Police, and they're seeing an increased number of retirements. We're hoping that we could continue to increase our numbers. We have 47, like I said, graduating tomorrow. We have 16 at the CNM Academy, and we have slated to start up to 60 in December. So recruiting efforts are going well. We hope they continue to go well, but I also wanted to give some time for questions, and I find that most beneficial. Sometimes people have questions, so I will open it to questions, and you guys just tell me when you're ready to move on to the next agenda item.
What time is the graduation tomorrow, Chief?
The graduation tomorrow, I believe, is at 1 o'clock. Let me double check.
I sent
real
Mr.
quick.
Silva a message too. Will people be able to attend the community?
No, we have to limit it because we do have a number of cadets. We're going to televise it on Zoom, and we're going to do Facebook Live, but we are restricting it, and we moved it to the academy just because we had a number of cadets that came down with COVID, and we're trying to make sure that we don't spread it more than need to be, and that we're able to I'm really fearful. I don't want the cadets to get the field sick or anybody else, because we've been very successful in keeping our field safe, and I don't want to take a step back on that. And it is at 1 o'clock.
Completely understood. Thank you, Chief.
So Chief Medina, first off, yes, Commander Yada's retirement party last week was very awesome. It was nice to see his parents there. It was nice to see, you know, all of the officers there speaking and telling stories, and it was great. Thank you for attending as well. We're also very much looking forward to having Commander Langett here. I know I've met with him a couple of times, wearing several different hats. Yes, I agree with Mr. Archuleta, jumping subjects here, that once upon a time we were invited to the graduations, and we're certainly looking forward to moving on to a time where we can attend those as well, to show our support for the officers, the new officers that are coming on board. You mentioned that you were doing ongoing recruiting. Where does that look like? I mean, we seem kind of tapped out. So where are we looking for officers?
We are looking both in-state and out-of-state, and we've actually done really well recruiting. I mean, if you look back historically, the times we've advanced as a department is when we have classes of 50 plus, 2 of them a year. And our last 2 classes are right in that 50 plus. When you take into account the graduates from CNM, they actually are 50 plus, because that's something we didn't have in the past. I wish we could recruit more laterals to give us a kind of a quick jump on getting people out in the field, but we've struggled. Like the rest of the state is short, and individuals are staying put. We've increased our incentive on it. We got an initial rush of applicants, but we're also looking in other ways. We're increasing our PTU staff. That's the prisoner transport unit, and that's key, because if we could keep the PTU open 24/7, officers don't have to drive all the way to the jail, and they could go into service more faster. And also they can take over all the guard duties when somebody's at the hospital and needs to be guarded. So I think it's really important that we look and we add where we can to assist the field. One of the things I'm doing different is, historically, APD has always looked to a year to year how many people we're going to recruit, and they haven't taken advantage of the PSA program the way I feel they could have in the past. And what I'm doing now is hiring as many public service aides as possible. We just graduated, I believe it was 19 a few weeks ago. I told them they have a number in process. I told them when they get those 10, and my goal is to hire 100 PSAs. We have to get to the point where we're adding 150 people a year if we're going to get the growth we want. And my plan is, if we could continue to recruit 50 to 60 for 2 classes, that's somewhere around 100 and 100 to 120. And if we're able to have 50 PSAs that just step into becoming officers, that's going to give us that 150 to 170 number that we're looking for. So the PSAs are also a big value. Every field squad, I spent 14 years in the field. I loved every time I had a PSA because they allowed our officers to get back in the service quicker. They took low priority calls. They waited for tow trucks. They assisted and transported victims. So this PSA program, we're overstaffing it with salary savings. And as they become officers, we could reduce the number of PSAs, and we should be able to hire more, about 2 to 3 PSAs for every officer position that we're using salary savings. So we're trying to develop a recruiting process where we're bringing people on the front end and not necessarily always focusing on keeping people at the back end through raises and retention. People have the right to retire at some point. It's a tough time in law enforcement. A lot of people are ready to retire, and my goal is to build on the front end rather than continuously on the back end, which actually has hurt us over time.
Does anyone have any questions so far?
Do we have any other council questions?
I'm good. I was going to check the chat.
I'm not
If
seeing
there's nothing
anything.
else, I just want to tell everybody thank you for the opportunity. I am committed to trying to go to every CPC at least twice during the year. And if you have any questions, I'm always available. hmedina@cabq.gov. And I want to thank you for all the time you volunteer for this program. Dr. Rickman has commented that we have one of the best CPCs, and it's nobody's hard work other than all the citizens who are volunteering for it.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, I'm going to get to my next event then.
All right,
I
have a good
little
evening.
early. Thanks.
Have a good evening, sir.
Awesome. That was informative.
Thank you, Chief.
I'm sorry. Our next presentation is on Albuquerque Vision Zero, which I believe is Sergeant Stone, if I'm not incorrect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Sergeant Stone with Albuquerque Police Department Traffic Division, and just gonna tell you guys a little bit about Vision Zero and what the program is. I'll try to answer any questions that I can. I'm no means by an expert on the program. I know it's been in the works for a little bit now. There was an individual who was kind of like the coordinator of the program. She recently left her position, but I believe by Friday they might be hiring somebody for a new position. So what is Vision Zero? Vision Zero, it's pretty much a strategy to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injury crashes while increasing safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all. I believe the goal of this Vision Zero program is they want to have 0 fatalities by the year 2040. So the program, it's not only enforcement, but it's education for drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists. And it's pretty much based on an underlying ethical principle that it can never be ethically acceptable that people are killed or seriously injured, while they're traveling on the roadway. So as an ethics-based approach, Vision Zero function to guide strategy selection and not to set particular goals or targets. In most road transport system, the road users bear a complete responsibility for safety. So Vision Zero changes this relationship by emphasizing the responsibility is shared by transportation system designers and the road users. There's kind of the traditional approach to traffic crashes. The traditional approach is traffic deaths are inevitable, and the Vision Zero approach is traffic deaths are preventable. So the traditional approach as well, they want to prevent collisions. The Vision Zero approach is they want to prevent fatal and severe crashes, serious injury crashes. So, you know, there's always people that are going to make mistakes while driving on the roadway. And so pretty much the Vision Zero program is they get with system designers, policymakers, and they want to improve the roadway environment. And they do studies on the roadway to see if anything in the roadway can be changed, or if there's any improvements that can prevent these crashes. Vision Zero, we meet about once a month, and we do a crash review. So we'll take the serious injury and fatal crashes that the traffic unit gets called out to, and we'll look at these crashes, and then we'll talk with all the other parties involved that are on the board, and see what we can do to work towards developing, see if that area possibly has problems in the roadway, or if there's like anything that could be controlled, like pedestrian movements can be worked to control it, or if they have to do like some sort of roadway assessment, if that a study for that particular area would benefit. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Of course, there's a lot more to it with different entities that within the city that are involved. Of course, traffic engineering and DOT and city officials. So, but that's pretty much the basis of it. And of course, it's an important program because we definitely do have a problem with fatals and serious injury crashes in the city. We as of today, we are at, I believe, 65. It's either 65 or 66, but we did have 2 fatal crashes today alone. One in the Valley Area Command and one in the Northwest Area Command.
Thank you for that. I'm assuming that it's similar to the ones in other major cities across the United States. It's based off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on other program. There are other larger cities that have a Vision Zero program. It's based on those ones as well.
Awesome. And do you know? I know that there's some transition in the position with the knowledge that's holding all the knowledge of that. Do you happen to know like what areas of the city, if any areas of the city, are more, the person is more likely to, get killed as a pedestrian? I know here in the Southeast, I personally am terrified to drive Zuni after it's dark, because I've almost hit people multiple times, and yeah, that just terrifies me.
Yeah, definitely in the Southeast Area Command, we do have Zuni and Central. We do have a lot of pedestrian fatals. We pretty much get a range of fatals throughout the city. I wouldn't say it's pretty much focused on any specific area.
Right.
Mostly the pedestrian fatals a lot of them are on Zuni and Central. Also Coors Boulevard. We get a lot over there as well.
Are there any particular parts of the city, not necessarily area commands, but I know that for a while there was a lot of focus on people on bicycles, that cyclists that were being hit and killed.
Yeah, and definitely when we do the crash review with Vision Zero, we try and focus on pedestrians and the cyclists. There, I don't really believe there's a certain area for cyclists. They come out, pretty much
Everywhere.
throughout different areas of the city.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to, once it all gets underway and moving forward, having somebody coming back and sort of giving us some more information about what you all are doing, what we as a community can do. And I'm sure we'll have lots more questions. I will definitely have more questions once I dig in a little deeper. Council? Questions? Comments? Mike?
I had put this in chat, but were there any lessons to be learned from last Monday's pedestrian fatality on I-25? And anything that we can do or advocate for to reduce red light runners, which I presume, based on my observations, contribute to a fair number of the crashes.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm not sure if I'm aware of the pedestrian on I-25. Do you have any details on that one?
Only that it had closed down the northbound I-25 around 7 o'clock in the morning, but
Was that Monday morning?
Say again?
Was that Monday morning, this Monday morning?
Monday morning, right.
Yes, I believe state police took that investigation. So I don't know all the details on that one, unfortunately. As far as red light runners go, of course, it's a big problem within the city. As far as our unit, we're just still focusing on as many TAC plans that we can get out to throughout the city and enforcement throughout the city, all over the city, just because it's a problem everywhere, and trying to combat that as much as we can. Yeah, and we also do, we have a late swing shift motor team now that's primarily focuses on drag racers. So they're hitting that up in the evenings. And then also we do a TAC plan on Sunday evenings. I guess drag racing has become a big problem on Sunday evenings as well. So the traffic division is sending officers out on Sunday evenings to try and combat some of that. So we're trying to do what we can with the limited number of motor personnel that we do have. So.
Do you have any other questions from the council? I'm looking to see in the chat. I'm not as tech savvy.
I got one for Officer Stone, Sergeant Stone. I don't know his title, sorry. Thank you for all the information you provided. What is it we got to do as a community other than calling 311 to put some kind of barrier to prevent people from turning into the Downs Casino headed north of Louisiana, just north of Central? There is not a turning lane there, but almost all the time people are backing up traffic to turn into that casino there. I'm not too sure how that hasn't been blocked yet, or what steps do we got to do to get some barriers placed there?
I'm not too sure how that's going to be, how it would be totally solved. I know a road assessment was done in that area, I believe from Lomas along Louisiana, Lomas to I think Gibson. And they have in Vision Zero, they have talked about the problems in that area. As far as barriers, I don't have the answer for that right now. Barriers getting into there. I guess I would just I know they would have to do some sort of roadway assessment in that area, and that could take a while.
Okay, thank you. How do we get a hold of that assessment? Is it on the website somewhere? We got to put in an inspection of Public Records Act, or are you aware of any, how to get to that?
I don't know if it's something you can order. It actually goes through DOT and where they believe that where the needs need to be met for those road
Okay.
assessments.
And Ryan, I can expand on that too. I believe this was the practice that was in play. It's still in play, but I'll confirm for everyone. On the City of Albuquerque website, there's a link for traffic engineering. And if you go to their section within the website, you can submit problem intersections. And the more people that submits, the better, because the more referrals that they get, that's how they determine where they're going to be dispatching their traffic engineers. So a lot of times, like, have you seen those black, like, rubber looking strips that they lay down? Those are basically like data lines that capture data. They record the speeds and how many vehicles. And that's what helps the engineers determine, if they're going to put a roundabout, or if they're going to put barriers, or if they're going to put more signs and stuff of that nature. Like Sergeant Stone, I don't know the exact timeline on how quick that comes to play. But again, what I've always been instructed is the more referrals that they get from the residents or whoever uses those thoroughways to travel, that's what gets the engineers out to address those specific areas of concern.
Thank you, Commander.
Thanks, Commander. Do you have any other questions? Not seeing any in the chat. Do I have any from any other council members? All right, well, thank you, Sergeant Stone. Again, we'll, I'm sure, have you all back with more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have Mr. Nieto that's going to be talking about the mayor's crime reduction plan. I hope I called it the right thing.
Yes, the Metro Crime Initiative.
Metro Crime Initiative. Thank you.
BM is kind of confusing because we had other people calling it Mayor's Crime Initiative too. Like, that sounds a little bad.
Okay, well, we will call it what it's supposed to be then.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kelly, would you mind allowing me to share my screen? I have a little presentation.
Absolutely. 1 second.
Thank you. I'm doing it off my iPad, so bear with me if it seems like I'm messing up. So give me a second here. Let's see. Let me share.
If you can't get it going, you can always email it to me. I can put it up.
Let's see, share screen. Let's see if it'll work now. And if not, yeah, this is all on the web as well. Can you see that, or is it still just me?
Still just you.
Sorry about that. Give me one more. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to share, but I will drop this in the chat really quick so everybody can see it. This is a link to our, why is it? It's not letting me do anything right now, apparently.
Okay.
Is it something you can access, Kelly?
If he sends it to me or tells me where it is, I can go get it. Or we can go to the crime reporter, Nicole Rogers, really quickly and work on it.
Yep, let's, yeah. Are you ready to jump in, Nicole?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Again.
Thank you for inviting me to share a little bit about, my name is Nicole Rogers. I'm from the Office of Equity and Inclusion. I am the African American Community and Business Liaison for for Mayor Keller, and I'm really excited. I've been with the city just about 6 months now, and it's actually a perfect segue to Aaron's presentation because I got this idea while I was in these Metro Crime Initiative meetings and hearing about different solutions, and everybody at these meetings agreed that poverty is the issue, and that if we get people resources, we could also reduce crime that way. So this is actually a model we are using based on the National Night Out, which is a public safety initiative. And what we're able to do is we're launching block parties, and what we're doing is we're guising it as a block party to draw people in, but it's really about dispatching resources directly to the community members. Can you guys hear me okay? It's saying my internet is unstable.
Loud and clear, Nicole. You're good on my end.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. And so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to drop a link in the chat to our community block parties. I really want to talk about the one we're doing this Saturday. That's going to be at the Endorphin Power Company, which I'm really excited about. We're partnering with the county, the city, our city councilors, and a lot of our community partners. And what we're doing is we're making sure we can dispatch resources directly to the community on the spot. So we're doing things like rental assistance applications. We have Medicaid and Medicare options out there. We have even Oak Healthcare, which is a new entity here in the city that's offering primary care, focusing on seniors. They actually pick seniors up for their appointments and pick others, not just seniors, but their patients up for appointments, which is huge. And really just trying to dispatch the resources. So this weekend, we're doing it every single Saturday till February. So we started in October and we're going all the way to February. And the reason is because the model does not work unless we are in the community continuously. So we're starting in the International District and then we're moving on. Thank you, Kelly, for putting the schedule in there. You can also find out the list of attendees, like the resources that we're going to actually have at each of the block parties we put on the website. So for instance, a community member is looking and they can't come, they can still, there's links to all of those community resources, and people can still take advantage of linking in with these organizations. Because I think that's really the option, is just how do we empower our community organizations and build up their capacity by offering our community centers on Saturdays, opening them up and really making sure that the community can come in and get some resources. So we were excited because Kelly's been out there, Mike's been out there every weekend, making sure that they're talking to folks about the community policing, councils, seeing how we can get new members on the community policing councils. And really just talking to the community. APDs out there, APD ambassadors are out there with Lieutenant Garcia. And so it's really, really, really excited because this weekend we're actually doing a mural unveiling there at Endorphin Power Company. We're doing a community march to just announce to the community that we're taking back our community. We don't want violence in our communities. And then we're going to end with some resources. So we're really excited. We hope you can make it. The 11 o'clock is the march and the unveiling of the mural, and then the block party will start at 12 and we'll go all the way till 3. So we'll have free food, fun. Institute of Flamenco is coming out, and they're making sure that we have some amazing entertainment. And so I'm really excited. It's going really well. A lot of the community is happy to see us there. We're also getting community feedback about what they need in their areas. And we've been able to report that back to city departments, and so that we can change things in the neighborhoods. Some of the things that the neighborhoods have asked for, like our first one was at Trumbull, and the community wanted more police presence at their parks. They wanted more needle stick pickups, more park cleanups, different things like that. So yeah, thank you for letting me share. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. And we ask that you just help us spread the word. We're moving all around Albuquerque, And it really was something that that our idea sparked from sitting in our Metro Crime Initiative meetings, trying to think of what we can do right now to make a difference. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll stay on if you have any questions.
Thank you, Nicole. And this Saturday is at EPC, and the following Saturday, the 30th, is at Wilson Park.
I'd like to thank Angelo and also Archie for showing up as well. They supported last weekend. So
Yes.
Thanks, Kelly. Most welcome.
So a quick question in terms of getting the word out. Has anybody reached out to press the local media, journal, and TV stations about advance notification, maybe on Friday? That would be tomorrow, rather than reporting it after the fact, which doesn't do a lot to promote participation. Anybody reach out yet? Hear anything back from KRQE, KOAT, KOB, or do I need to get on their case?
You know, Mike, I think you're right. I don't think I've put as much emphasis on wide mass media or outreach, because part of our model is making sure that the people in the neighborhood that live there are the ones that are attending. So what we're doing is we're actually door knocking every Wednesday, and we take flyers and we knock on doors in the at least 3-block vicinity of wherever we're going to be. If we don't get in touch with someone, we leave a flyer on the door. But we did just recently actually ask the mayor's office for some help with a press release, and I know that that's going to be going out soon. We're also working with APD. APS. APS is actually texting through their communication with families in the schools that are in the area that we're in, Fridays just before the event, to try to get the families out as well. But I think you're right, Mike. We could use some help with that, because that's definitely not my area of expertise. But I would love help getting them out there. And I think Endorphin Power Company would be a really great one for them to see, because there's going to be entertainment and more of that we have not had at the other events. So I think I'd love your help with that if you can.
Good question, Mike. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you all for having me.
Are you doing any publicity for Nextdoor?
You know, I didn't think of that either. Nextdoor, is it? I'm not familiar with Nextdoor, so maybe that's why I didn't think of it. So Ron, I'd love to look into that and see how we can do that.
Yeah, it's just a neighborhood app. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, go ahead, Susie. It seems to me that somebody in APD was a agency representative for Nextdoor. I can't remember who that was, but they could post that in any of the relevant neighborhoods. I can post on our Nextdoor, but it only reaches adjacent contiguous neighborhoods. So maybe somebody with APD can figure out who that was. I don't remember if it was, I forget. Janet might have been the person.
There is a way on Nextdoor to publicize to a larger set of neighborhoods. I mean, areas, not just your own little area.
Awesome. Well, I wrote that down.
That's another thing about posting.
Okay, I wrote that down so we can add that to our marketing plan.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Do we have any, I don't see any questions in the chat. Do we have any other questions from the council or any of our panelists? All right, I know you've been running around like crazy because I saw you yesterday evening doing flyers, so I'm gonna let you go. And I'll see you Saturday morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. Have a great night.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, Mr. Nieto.
I'm so sorry about my technical difficulties here, but I did send the website that does have this presentation on it. There are a lot of words to it, so I don't want to read too much of it because there's a long checkbox for each individual topic I'm going to talk about, which I don't think is going to be beneficial for me to repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So the Metro Crime Initiative was convened by Mayor Keller earlier this summer, and the participants include the governor, the attorney general, the district attorney, the public defender's office, a whole host of local advocacy groups, the state senate, the state house, representatives from CNM, UNM, Highland, the APS and ABC, the Albuquerque Bernalillo County community schools. So we have kind of a good cross section of different groups that are influenced and can help influence this initiative. Endorphin Power Company is also on that list as well. So what we did was for this group was set out a case study and had them kind of identify how we could help this theoretical individual navigate through the system and not end up as a violent criminal, and help catch them in the deterrent time, so that way they don't end up heading down into committing violent crimes. So the first list here we have, and you can see here, fight crime, and you can see the list there of fully fund public safety, hire more officers, create retention programs. Those are all available there to see, but really what that is just kind of cracking down on what we can at this time. There is crime that has to be stopped that's going on before we can get to the stopping being more deterrent of crime rather than, trying to stop it before it starts. So these are the fight crime section is just what we can do right now in terms of policing. And as you can see, there's a number there. And if there's anything anybody has any questions on, please let me know, and I'm happy to respond. The next section here is reducing gun violence. Again, that's a big problem that we're having in the city right now is violent crime, specifically gun-related violence. So taking into consideration that people that commit crimes with firearms rather than non-violent crimes, having those individuals be not released on their own recognizance, and working with the courts to make sure that they are kept in jail awaiting trial, strengthening gun crime penalties, closing loopholes in the red flag law, strengthening gun storage laws, because again, that's another issue, especially with younger individuals. They're getting a hold of their parents' guns or other family members and using them. So making sure that people are keeping their guns locked up safely, urging gun owners to self-record their serial numbers. That's a project that we're working on as well, where you can go out to the city range and shoot some rounds, and then they can keep your serial number, so that way if your gun is ever stolen, you can report it stolen, and if it's in a crime, then they know that it's that gun was stolen from you, and it's that you weren't involved with the crime. And just studying gun violence as a public health issue, because it really has become a very big public health issue for the city, as I mentioned before. The next section is closing the revolving door. So we do have this, one of the boxes checked here, which is fixing the 24/7 ankle monitor. The monitors that they give people when they're on house arrest were not turned on for quite some time. So people had monitors on their ankles, but they weren't doing anything. So we worked with the courts and the DA to get that fixed, and it's fixed now. Staffing in courts is also something that's pretty low as well. So we're working with the courts to staff that as well. Using grand juries to protect victims and clear backlogs, so getting them through the grand jury quicker. The next is strengthening diversion, which I think is one of the more important aspects of this. It's getting to those, trying to stop crime before it starts, catching people before they end up in a life of crime. So expanding court order treatments, increased pre-arrest diversion offers, lower cost barriers to diversion programs. So really trying to give people the opportunity to utilize those various programs that we do have in both this with the city, the state, the county, and the courts as well. Increase the number of diversion agreements, allowing people to have that opportunity to not, to avoid incarceration and get people the help they need, because a lot of crime is committed out of a necessity, be it behavioral health, which I will get to in the next section, or addiction, or just a lot of times poverty is a huge reason that people end up committing crimes, and trying to help make sure that we're getting people the help they need and not getting them incarcerated. I think strengthening diversion is really what I think is one of the most beneficial aspects of this. But also rebuilding our behavioral health system. In 2012, our state's behavioral health system was kind of dismantled. So we've been trying to rebuild that since. So we're trying to incentivize new providers, build peer support programs, create 24/7 sobering centers, and expand Turquoise Lodge. Turquoise Lodge is in the Gibson Medical Hub, and we are working closely with them. And so that will also be part of the Gateway Center as well. Again, increasing more addiction treatment services, and developing behavioral health career paths, career training for underserved youth. So trying to get people in the community to be a part of the behavioral health system. And then finally, expand violence intervention programs. Our VIP program is great. I'm sure Angel has come and spoken with y'all before about the work that they do, but I think it's immensely important that we try to get people out of the cycle of crime. And I think that's really what is one of the most beneficial things of that. So finding those social determinants and trying to make sure that people don't end up falling into a life of crime, and can get them the resources they need to stay out of that. So that's kind of the short and skinny of it. I have a lot of slides that I really would have liked to share with you, but they are on the website. So you please feel free to take a look at them. If you click on read more about the action plan, that'll bring up a really good slide for you to check out. It's not as many slides as I have, but it is something that is very helpful. And you can see the check boxes on there as well. So that's really the extent of my presentation. I'm here for as many questions as needed. And I think I saw a few come in the chat. Any weapons buyback programs on tap? I think we do. I think we do have one coming up here very soon. Let me look really quick.
Next weekend. There's one next weekend here in Albuquerque.
Yes. I knew there was one coming up soon. My calendars have been kind of crazy, so I haven't really, I knew it was coming up either this weekend or next weekend. So thank you, Susie, for catching that for me.
So I have a question that may or may not be for you. It may be for APD, since they're the ones that do the buyback. And I don't know, Commander, if you can jump on this or not, but as we worked with New Mexicans Against Gun Violence on the mural at EPC, and some of the conversations we had were that APD and the city at one point worked with New Mexicans Against Gun Violence with some of these buybacks, but it doesn't seem like that's happening now. And I don't know if that's just like policy issue or timing issue or funding issue or any of that sort of stuff. But I would be curious to kind of go down that rabbit hole, not right this moment, but like what that looks like and what it takes to make that happen, both on, a policy administrative side and, and a financial side, because I'm sure that it's pretty significant to have one of those buybacks.
Right, I can answer that. The last one that we did in cooperation with them, with their support actually, and their funding was back in 2019.
Wow.
So basically we did one in the spring In fact, I was involved with it. I was back in investigations, and basically it came down to a matter of timing. That was the only reason why that we couldn't use their funds, because they had a specific date that their funds needed to be used by. And we had to get an MOU and a contract basically in place with Crime Stoppers as far as obtaining the funds and how we were distributing those funds, so it was done the right way. So we ended up using funds from City Council. We have leftover funds from City Council from when we did it in the spring, and that's when we're going to be using it for the one on the October 30th. But for the future ones, absolutely, we'll be more than willing to work with them again. Like I said, we did one with them in 2019. Crime Stoppers is a big part of it because the contracts with them to technically distribute the payments to the individuals that come and drop off their firearms that are no longer wanted. So I hope that answers your question, Susan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And another question that I had just looking at the slides that you had up was I was glad to see more funding, hopefully, for the VIP program, because yes, it's a great program. And you talked about diversion, but I didn't see anything on restorative justice and how that all fits in there.
So that is one of the programs we APD is working with, and our Office of Equity and Inclusion has been doing some restorative justice trainings, and also developing a ambassador program to various different groups within the city. There's an African American ambassador, there's a Native American ambassador, a Hispanic, Latino, Latinx ambassador, an LGBTIQ ambassador, faith-based. That, you know, if you think of something, we're working on getting an ambassador program set up for that, and that, you know, trying to rebuild that trust within the community, rather than it being an us against them kind of situation, that we are all members of the community and we should all be treated as such. So that is definitely something we are working on.
Well, I know that when we've hosted those conversations at EPC, we've had very good turnout. We've had just conversations that we've had with our neighbors in the neighborhood. That's something that they're, you know, that they would welcome, as well as, you know, maybe some, along with the block parties, you know, maybe some types of training, you know, whether that's just conflict resolution, and that certainly would, if we had those types of skills as neighbors, instead of getting upset and calling the police, you know, we would be able to have those skills, or our neighbors would be able to intervene and help us de-escalate those situations.
It's
That's
really a
just my
shame.
personal opinion, but
Sorry. I was gonna say, it's really a shame that we didn't get to this before Nichole was off the call, because she's one of the people I have been working with on this, and she's in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. So like, I have a much higher level knowledge of it than she does. Like she's in there with the nuts and bolts. So I would definitely suggest having Nichole. I will talk to Nichole and Dawn and the other people working within the ambassador program to see if we can get a presentation on that to y'all as well, because their work that they're doing is really fantastic. Both like the ambassadors and the trainees are just doing really great work.
yes, they are. Additional questions from the council? Mike, did you see anything in the chat I need to jump on or ask, or that you can ask?
I heard you mention conflict resolution. I know of a particular case where there are angry neighbors shouting at one another about minor things that are not going to be addressed, not high priority, as a call for service. So do officers ever make referrals to any available city mediation programs, conflict resolution programs? Do they even exist anymore? I've been trying to dig into that. They used to have a very strong mediation programs here in Albuquerque about 25 years ago.
I am not 100% sure on that. I know that is something that we have been talking about and discussing, because it is very important. We've seen so many instances where people are like, it's what should just be a minor argument turns into violence. And you know, I'm remembering a story, I think it was over the summer of 2020, where two people were just arguing in the front yard, and one of them went and got a gun and shot the other one. And it was, you know, if we could have those kinds of mediated conversations. That's also, again, something that Nichole is also working on very, very strongly. I do a lot of work with equity and inclusion, but again, like, I get kind of a high level knowledge of it. Again, they know the nuts and bolts, but that is something that came up actually at the Trumbull block party, where two people were fighting because their kids started arguing at the playground, and then one of the parents got in the other parent's face. And it's like, you know, this doesn't have to escalate to this. We can have a conversation about why our two children are having these problems instead of this resorting to violence. So I will definitely check in with our Office of Equity and Inclusion on that, and I'll email Kelly with that information, so that way it can be disseminated to the group.
And I know Tanya Covington stepped in and has reached out to that family that had the issue at Trumbull. And I certainly would like to, you know, to at some point have her come back and talk to us about the work that she does. Mike, that would be one of the things. I know that she's come and done training with us at EPC, and she's done some conflict resolution there as well.
Wonderful.
And I've done her training.
I just posted a link that I found on the city webpage, and I should have found that 2 months ago.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Nieto?
Thanks so much, Mr. Nieto.
Thank you all so much for having me again. I do apologize about my technical difficulties. Next time I will be better prepared. So again, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to drop my contact info in the chat as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, sir.
All right. Commander, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. And if it's okay, if I could take a few minutes just to introduce myself to the council. My name is Luke Langwit. I have been with the department working several assignments, but just before I get into my department assignments, a little bit about myself. At one point in time, I lived over at Utah and Trumbull. I attended Highland High School, and I ended up attending the University of New Mexico. So I'm very familiar with the Southeast Heights. It's home for me, or it was home for me. And when I came onto APD as a patrol officer, I worked Southeast Graveyard. So again, the Southeast means a lot to me. So I was very excited when the opportunity came up to fill in and do the best job I can, that the work that Commander Johnny Yada had started over here. Through my career as a patrol officer, like I said, I worked here as a sergeant. I worked undercover narcotics and vice. Lieutenant, I kind of switched it up and I went to tactical, where I was the SWAT lieutenant. And then as a commander, for the last 2 years, I've been working in the Special Investigations Division and Property Crimes. Again, when the opportunity came up to take this area command, I was very excited about it. So I'd like to present our crime statistics and just some analysis on that. I apologize if it's because this is one of the first CPC meetings I have attended in a long time. So I apologize if I'm not following the flow that you may be used to. Just let me know. I can make any adjustments needed for future meetings. So for the month of September, there was a total of 10,292 calls for service specific to the Southeast Area Command. And out of those 10,000 calls for service, 1,439 resulted in a incident where a report was taken or there was enforcement action taken by police officers. We do have it broken down in violent crime and property crime. Violent crime, we had 101 aggravated batteries and assaults, 10 criminal sexual penetrations, 275 domestic disputes, 1 homicide, and 3 kidnappings. On the property crime section, 121 auto burglaries, 116 auto thefts, 53 commercial burglaries, 47 white collar crimes, 136 larcenies, and 78 residential burglaries. So just an analysis on those numbers, whether you look at it from a year-to-date comparison or more of a smaller scale, like a 7-day to a 28-day comparison, year-to-date, comparing it to the previous years, we're actually trending down in crime, which is a good thing. For violent crime, I believe the only categories where we're kind of flat is going to be, I apologize, let me bring it up. Aggravated assaults and batteries, we have an increase in robberies for an overall increase about 7% for violent crimes. Whereas on the property crimes, all of our categories except for auto theft, all the burglaries, residential, auto, commercial, shoplifting, they've all trended down. And this is year to date, so that's good. I think if we're looking at a year to date comparison, but again, knowing our challenges with staffing and how it's so important just because of our staffing that we're really being smart with our allocation of resources and officers, that we try to get ahead as much as we can as anytime we see a flare up in any of these emerging crime trends. So I like to really look at the 7-day and 28-day and where we're at with the last month. And what stuck out to me, particularly for this month since I came over, and I've been here for about 3 weeks, about a month, is the increase in commercial burglaries and robberies and the aggravated batteries and assaults. And looking at the crime maps and looking at the statistics, what's kind of become clear is the Gibson, Central, and Lomas. A lot of these incidents, they overlap each other. And what I mean by that is you may have an individual in a stolen vehicle that's using that to go commit a commercial burglary. So a lot of these crime categories kind of overlap on each other. What I found interesting is that these 3 main thoroughfares, the crime kind of radiates off of these 3 streets. So for me, when I'm deploying resources, looking at days and times where these incidents are really flaring up, I want to really focus the enforcement operations on these particular areas. Having our officers be proactive, do as many on-sites and traffic stops to catch these in progress crimes. But in addition to that, just in these roads that I kind of identified for operations, that's where I think it's so much important too, where we also, on the other side of things, we really look to our engagement, community engagement, really talk to the businesses and the residences that are in these affected areas, to let them know the analysis and trends that we're seeing to help better prepare them to prevent these crime categories from going up, and we can actually turn the tide and reduce them. An example being looking at commercial burglaries. An interesting stat that I kind of found very interesting was that more towards like the end of the month and the beginning of the month, there's an increase in that. And yes, we can't positively confirm it's due to, you know, housing insecurity or quality of living, but that could be an assumption that bills are due at that period. So individuals that don't have the means to pay those bills have to resort to some type of criminal activity. So that's why I'd really like to really push on educating, again, the businesses and neighborhoods in these areas, letting them know about that trend that we're seeing and providing the resources about target hardening and, you know, crime prevention through environmental design and all the tools that can better assist them in reducing those crimes of opportunity, and then also providing information too on communication, information sharing. Someone already said it on this meeting about Nextdoor. I know Ring has it in my own neighborhood now, where I'll get alerts from all the neighbors in the area, letting everyone know about a suspicious vehicle that was seen, you know, casing around and stuff like that. So I think the newsletter that that all the area commands produce is a great start to get that information out there. And I'm hoping to really increase the use of social media and those apps just to get everyone on the same page to where they are in a position to receive that information so that they can better prepare themselves to minimize the chances of them being a victim of crime. Is there any specific questions for our crime analysis and what our crime is looking like here in the Southeast?
I'm guessing since we keep seeing from APD about all of the people who leave their cars out for warm-ups that our car theft numbers are going to go up here in the next month or so, in the next couple of months.
It may, and I'm hoping with enough. And in fact, I want to, for the next newsletter, and I had mentioned it before on another meeting, but again, just putting that information out there, that reminder that, hey, auto theft warm-ups, I mean, in these colder months, that's one of the main ways vehicles get stolen. You know, and auto thefts are being used as a vehicle for violent crime and other property crimes, specifically the commercial burglaries. And I think it's worth noting as well, the Southeast Area Command, we started a anti-crime operation. It's a 60-day operation. It started October 1st through the 18th. And I'm happy to report that the officers that work for you in this area, they are totally dedicated. They've gotten great results. 36 individuals have been arrested for residential and commercial burglary and robbery. They were either arrested for an in-progress commercial burglary and robbery, or they have a history for burglary and robbery. And that's important too, because just as we're strapped for resources, our prosecutors are also strapped for resources too. I believe the chief had said at one point, like, you know, if we're handing the district attorney's office 20,000 cases, you know, it's important that we recognize their capacity. Can they actually prosecute 20,000 cases? No, they can't. They just don't have the capacity to do that. So it's like, well, then who do you prioritize and who do you prosecute? And that's why it's important for us to provide the information on when we arrest someone, even if it's for like an aggravated, you know, battery charge, but we can show that just in the last 3 months, they've committed 3 residential burglaries or 3 commercial burglaries. You know, it's my stance to prioritize that individual, because not only are they affecting, you know, in the violent crime category, but we can clearly show that this is an individual that is also affecting the community by victimizing people and committing property crimes too. So really providing a good, you know, packet on these prolific offenders. So the prosecutors have they have a priority order. So we are focusing our resources on the right people, if that makes sense.
Yes. I have a question that's kind of crime related. So you're talking basically working smarter, not harder, or hard and smart at the same time. So I know that we've had presentations and we've had discussions about cameras, license plate readers for stolen car. I know that that's kind of one of the things to identify stolen cars. What do we do as a community to try to enhance and grow on those existing technologies?
That's a great question, Susie. And again, this is something else I've thought of when I stay up at night because I don't sleep, is maybe even doing a piece on this in our next newsletter too. I'll just throw it out there that, you know, compared to 10 years ago, surveillance cameras, the price, I mean, they're very affordable now compared to like 10 years ago. And you're talking a high resolution picture, an HD picture as well, to where, and I don't want to say it's due to our staffing or due to our volume of calls, but the reality is we're not able to arrest all the in-progress crimes. We just can't be everywhere at once, and there will be a delay to where we just can't get there. So that's why it's so important on the back end for our investigators and detectives that we can provide them with all of the physical and trace and criminalistic evidence that we can, to where they can identify these prolific offenders, you know, and build their case and submit that case for prosecution to hold them accountable. So a surveillance photo, you know, that can go such a long way in helping to make an identification. We can put that on Crime Stoppers. We work with our partners at Crime Stoppers. We'll work with the media, and the tips come in, and the detectives are able to figure out who these individuals are. So to kind of answer your question, APD has the Real-Time Crime Center. I don't know if they've given a presentation to the CPCs, but where we have had successful partnerships with businesses that are meeting with our real-time crime center. They're finding out the different technology that's compatible with the real-time crime center. So it's tied in with them to where information and evidence like that can be relayed to the officer in real time. And detectives can get it real time. So it does assist with the in progress apprehensions, but it also assists on the back end with the investigators as well. So I can give you an example. Again, partnerships with our stakeholders. Home Depot, they've bought, and again, Home Depot is a nationwide, they're a big box. They've bought automatic license plate readers, and they're equipping their parking lots with these license plate readers, and they're going to be tied in directly to our real-time crime center. So as soon as that hit comes in for a stolen vehicle, the officers will be getting it real time. So again, what I'd like to do is I'd like to really educate and provide information to all the businesses is the importance of technology and information sharing, how that can make a difference. If all the businesses are communicating, letting them know about suspicious vehicles or persons that they've seen, and picking up on patterns and getting that out to everyone, it increases the chances of us preventing those crimes. And then the technology, like I said, with the cameras, there is technology that's affordable, and with our real-time crime center, it can be a very good partnership and a very good thing for us.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry, I was hogging all the time, everybody. Other questions?
I had a quick one. I had to step out for just a moment. I don't know if you touched on it. Were there any gun thefts from unlocked vehicles or even locked vehicles where they left their guns in the glove compartment?
Yes, I don't have an exact number, but I personally remember seeing a couple of reports where that's still occurring. And that's one of those things where, and maybe I'll brainstorm with a lot of, and just since the time I've been here, I've already attended a couple really good community meetings with some neighborhoods where we kicked around some really good ideas. And again, I think with that, it's really going to come down to really just reintroducing that education about, this happens, it's still continuing to happen. We need to do something about it. An example that I always like to use is Smokey the Bear. Everyone, when you hear Smokey the Bear, everyone knows, fires, prevent fires, because that's been ingrained in us since we were little. So if we can come up with a way to really, whether if it's a figure or slogan, to really, ingrain that in the community about the importance of removing your firearms, because that's one less gun that's going to be out on the street and possibly potentially be used for a violent crime.
Thank you. Let's see, there's a question in the chat. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with the chat right now. Can you see the questions in the chat, Commander, or no?
I can, and you know what? I saw one from President Perea, Sandra. I don't have that breakdown, but I will get that breakdown, and if I could follow up with you offline, I'll put my my information before tonight's over, all my contact information, and I'm making note of that right now. The breakdown between the CSPs on adults and children. So I'll get that breakdown for you.
Do we have any other questions regarding the crime stats? All right, then I guess we shall move on to, if I can get my cat to move, your strategic plan for the Southeast area.
Yes, ma'am, and I'm glad that you have given us the opportunity. I know it was real short notice to throw this in the agenda. I have on the call with me Commander Arturo Sanchez and Lieutenant Jennifer Garcia. They have been involved pretty much from day one with the community engagement efforts with the DOJ and the CASA. So I think before I get into why and what I put into the plan. I think it's important that Commander Sanchez explains why we're even doing this plan and why now. So Commander Sanchez.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, excellent. So we got that part out of the way. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to kind of give you a little bit of an overview as to how we came about with these plans and the reason for some of these plans. I'm actually the Northwest Area Commander, but like Commander Langwit said, I'm the lead on the community engagement paragraphs for the CASA, and Lieutenant Garcia, who will give you a little bit more of how this plan was put together. So one of the things that we talked to the monitors about, and one of the things that we had been working with them on was the public information and engagement of each area command. So every area command came up with a plan because in the past we had our area command websites, and there were different ways how every area command sent out the information. And so the one of the things that we did is last year, I believe it was last year, towards the end of last year, we sent out surveys through the CPCs, through the neighborhood associations, and asked, you know, as a community, how do you want to get your information from each area command? And so we got, you know, we had 5 specific questions. And because each area command is very different as to, you know, how they want to receive that information. I'll give you an example for my area command. One of the things that they put on there was Nextdoor. I know we had talked about Nextdoor a little while ago. It's very active in the Northwest. And so that is one of the ways that we put out information. Obviously, it's not anything that we monitor, but we also put out a lot of our flyers. We put out a lot of pertinent information within that area command. And so the idea of having this plan was, the first was to have a standardized process for every single area command so that everybody wasn't all over the place, while still making sure that each individual area command had their own unique way that was pretty much created for the specific area command. And so once we started putting these plans, each area commander was given really kind of the format as to what things we were going to have on that plan, and then they all created their own individual plans. The other one was for accountability. What we wanted to make sure is that within that plan, there's a couple of areas. One of them is, you know, barriers that we see within our area command. And it was important to have those in there because when you had a new commander, or when you have a new commander come in, they already have this plan that they know, hey, I have to make sure that I don't overlook the specific barriers as to how I'm communicating with the community in my area command. And so that was one of the other reasons. So that's kind of an overview of why, how we came up with it. And the other is something that that was put in one of the monitoring reports, the last couple of them, talking about our public information within the area command and our websites and the engagement and how we're doing that. So that's kind of where we are. I'll let Lieutenant Garcia, who was instrumental in putting this plan together and making sure it got to the area commanders, answered the questions on specific areas, go over to how she put this format together, and then Commander Langwick can go into your specifics. But I'll be here for any questions that you may have, or if you have a question now, by all means, I'm open to answering that question.
Thank you, Commander.
I've been working with Commander Sanchez and the area commands on this plan. And this is something like Commander Sanchez said, we wanted some organization. We wanted the area commands, if you went to different area commands, to get on their website, get information from them in a similar format. However, we also understand that each area command is very unique. And I think you'll see that as we go through Commander Langwood's plan. There are issues or a different population maybe in the Southeast that may not be in other area commands. So we want to make sure that everything that he's doing to reach out to all of the community members is perfect for what that area command needs, what they want, and the resources they have. And that's pretty basic. I think Commander Sanchez covered everything else, but I will be here for any questions as we go through the plan.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Susie, has the council had the opportunity to see the draft of the plan?
Yes, I sent that out to everybody after you sent it to me.
Okay. I guess I'll just start with an overview of the sections and kind of what we were thinking behind that. If there's questions or if there's any input, please, I'd love to get that feedback from you. Of course, the first sections are mission and vision. Of course, it's mostly in line with the department's mission and vision, but to me, it comes down to, our officers, it's going to come down to balance where they have to, of course, their primary responsibility is to provide that service to where when you call 911 or 242 cops because you're in need of assistance, then an officer is going to be able to respond and help you out. So, of course, it's going to be that enforcing the laws justly, fairly, and to the constitutional standard. That might include working proactive operations and initiatives, but at the same time, they have to be able to balance that with actually, knowing the pulse of the community, understanding what the issues are, and to do that, meaningfully and fairly. It has to be a two-way street. We have to be able to communicate to find out what those issues are. So that balance between enforcement and engagement is going to be important. We identified some objectives to be able to accomplish that. And like Lieutenant Garcia and Commander Sanchez had mentioned, having grown up down here, I know how much of a diverse, culturally diverse community that we have. So I think before we can actually get into information sharing and identifying problems and making sure that everyone in this community is getting the access, has the access, and is getting the information, we have to recognize, and this could be a barrier that Commander Sanchez had referred to is language. If there are portions of this community, which there are, that English isn't their first language. Of course, I feel, I think everyone would agree that they are entitled to the same information and help that everyone else is. So I think it's an obligation on our part to do what we can to ensure that we are taking language into consideration, and whether if it's a verbal translation or we're translating our newsletter into languages to where it's more accessible for them so they can get more out of it. So I think communication is huge, and that's an objective that I have a couple plans to work on to make that more accessible for everyone here. And then also just that flow of information of being able to not only just spit out numbers of how many burglaries have happened, but a real analysis, a real crime analysis on trends and patterns that we're seeing. We may not always have all the answers. There might be ideas out in the community because of the geographical layout or because of the culturally diverse people that live in this particular neighborhood, that those ideas may make the difference in solving that problem. Also, along those lines too, I think it's important to mention that there may be some issues where the police, we may not be the ones that are able to solve it. Fortunately, we have good working relationships with all the other city departments, and we have enough relationships with other stakeholders to where if we're not the ones able to solve it, we definitely can bring the right people to the table, and collectively as a group, we could come up with a plan to solve that issue. But again, that comes down to being able to communicate and share that information back and forth, to where we're really providing that good analysis, but we really are getting the issues that may not always be reported on a CAD or on a piece of paper, finding out the root causes of those issues, and that comes from the people that work and live in these particular areas. Part 3 is themes, and this was feedback that I had gotten from Commander Sanchez and Lieutenant Garcia, and even the monitoring team. The way it was explained to me is, you know, I'm not always going to be here, just like Commander Yada retired. In a few years, I'm going to be able to retire. So the idea behind this plan is in place to really kind of spell out how we are providing information and how we're kind of communicating and engaging with the community. So the themes are important because this is, I don't want to say like a instruction guidebook, but it's kind of like keeps us organized. That's how I kind of interpret it, to where I may have an officer that's a year out that attends a community function, a neighborhood association meeting. If they don't know, if they aren't, how are they supposed to know what right looks like if we don't show them? So how do I expect him to go into this meeting and engaging if they don't know what to do or what to cover? So to me, the themes are kind of like that blueprint of keeping us organized, whether if it's in a neighborhood association meeting or if it's a business meeting or just a community function, where they kind of know this script. And not only knowing a script, but it's important that they keep up with our crime trends, our analysis, how that could change week by week, and the initiatives that we as an area command and also as a department, what we have in place and why we're doing it. So when they go to this neighborhood association meeting, and what I put in the plan is an introduction of themselves, the area command, the supervisors that work here, of course, the mission and vision of the department and the area command, and then exactly to what I said, presenting that real time. Hey, this is kind of what we're seeing, where we're seeing it, and what we're doing about it. And then, of course, having that time to hear that feedback or those ideas from the community members as well. So I don't want to call it like a guidebook or a script, but I think it's so important. What I want to do moving forward with the officers here is really work with them to understand how important it is to be organized and have this information. So when they go to a community meeting, because it's come up, and I'll just say it, where it's like, hey, the officers, you know, whether they're nervous or not, they're really not engaging with the community. They kind of just group together. Arming them with this information, hopefully they'll be more comfortable. They'll be able to meet the people that live there and be able to share this information, and then take back the good ideas to me, to where we can roll into our implementation phase and use that to help us out. The next section was key activities. What resources are available, like at the department level. We have our public information office, where we have our department accounts, like our social media accounts, Twitter and Facebook. And then resources, what other stakeholders and internal, and what other resources internally that we have, and then externally that may include stakeholders and other departments within the city that can also assist us in the goal of how are we properly sharing information and how are we engaging with our community members. And then a metrics to measure success. And then I had put in there some short-term and long-term goals, but I think, and this is just my opinion, and I'll let Commander Sanchez correct me if I'm wrong. This plan, again, to me, is kind of that succession plan. As new officers come in, as new supervisors and commanders come in, it kind of gives them a guide to put them in the right direction of how to properly engage. But I think these short-term and long-term goals are going to change, and they should change, because we evolve. So the communities evolve, new issues come up, and I think in real time, every so often we're going to have to do an assessment and change these goals. So that's just my personal spin on it. But with that, I know I don't want to take up too much time. I really want to leave time for questions and feedback. That was just a real short overview. So questions, feedback.
Thank you for that, Commander. Archie here. Is there, it just jogged my memory. I hear the race cars. I'm always hearing them over here in the Cesti Hill neighborhood. Is there a dedicated task force for drag racing of any kind?
So I wouldn't say task force, but whenever we kick off like our anti-crime operation, that is a part of it. But this is where we're not siloed. We are communicating with like Sergeant Stone that was on here earlier. One of the big issues that I just recently dealt with last week was the Eubank strip, basically from South Essential up to the base. They've been having some really bad problems over there. So it's a matter of just coordinating with the motors officers that really have the tools and the extra personnel to deal with that, and then coordinating that with the officers that are assigned up in those in these specific areas that are plagued with drag racing for the different shifts, so that we are using multiple manpower to attack it. But then also, like our area command, we have our speed trailers that we can also deploy as well. So I don't want to say it's a task force, but it's not just an area command lift. We have to involve, and we have involved other specialized units to assist us in that effort.
How many incidences do they have to have before they confiscate, repossess their vehicles? Does that ever happen?
No, I'm not aware of any laws on the books about us being able to repossess vehicles for drag racing.
No, there aren't any right now, any statutes or ordinances that allow us to repossess vehicles. I don't know if you know, even with DWIs years ago, us taking those vehicles after their third DWI or their second DWI, that stopped. There were some concerns about whether it was constitutional for us to take property like that. So no, there isn't.
Thank you.
I have, I guess, a question or a comment that doesn't have to really like go deep this evening, but one of the things that you spoke about were language and economic barriers, which would impact people using social media because they might have an Obama phone that doesn't get, Wi-Fi. Obviously, language barriers on apps and social media. I'd like to, leave on the table to, at next phase or at some point, kind of figure out the best way to address that, whether that's going out to people in those communities and seeing if, I'm assuming you are already thinking of going into those communities and seeing how they use those types of communication amongst themselves. But I would be interested to hear more about that at some point. I know that under some of the external resources, I know code enforcement that on Fridays you all work with code enforcement. So I don't know if that would be something that would be permanent part of the plan, temporary, permanent, whatever. Because I know that they're part of the 311.
And if I could comment on that real quick, Susie, I guess I'm not in a position to say temporary or permanent, but I would say long-term. Because right now we do have an encampment task force where we have code enforcement, solid waste, planning. In fact, we're actually going out tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning in the 1600 block of Truman to deal with an encampment issue. So again, having the right stakeholders at the table makes all the difference, because again, like I said, APD, we may not be able to solve it, especially like we mentioned at the beginning of this meeting. If poverty is one of the number one issues, the quality of living, what resources can be given, in the sense of removing this individual, giving them help to where, they're not camping in a park. Now, of course, when it comes down to enforcement, if there are individuals where unfortunately we may just have to take enforcement, yes, that is us. But to answer your question, the encampment task force that and we're convening, correct me if I'm wrong, Commander Sanchez, 2-3 times a week. I think it's safe to say it's long-term. It's not going away. Parks are a focus, and then also encampments that just pop up anywhere. We're all working together to address that collectively.
Then I just have one other question, and just a question to the wind, is you have a new bid every year, which means you get new officers, you get new cadets, saying that this is what our community looks like, and this is how, this neighborhood conducts itself, this is how that neighborhood conducts itself. By the time an officer kind of gets up to speed, it's time for potentially could be time for a new bid. So like, that, I would like to know how we can help with that as community members. Whether that's engaging more with officers. Then the other edge of that sword is, there are so few of you that we don't like pulling people off of the streets, to take calls. So I don't know, I guess that's something maybe we could all brainstorm about what that looks like.
I think that's a great point. And again, I don't want to take up all the time, but I have thought about that, and I look at the constants. Back when I came on the department, keeping a supervisor in a particular position, there's benefits to long-term assignments, because you establish those relationships, and it's sustainable. These days, and this is just my personal opinion, but I don't know what long-term is, just because of the way our staffing is, from the officer all the way up to the commander. But looking at constants, and this is where I would really challenge you, and I would charge all of the community stakeholders. If there are stakeholders that are constant, and then also specialized units, I'm glad that each of the area commands have PRT teams. PRT teams is a specialized assignment to where, in a perfect world, they're not being changed out at the bid. They are staying there until they decide to promote or move on to other things, versus officers that have to bid every year, and there is a seniority factor that's based in there, whether they can come back to this assignment or not. So recognizing civilian and sworn personnel inside the substation and the area commands that are going to be constant, and then also recognizing stakeholders such as yourselves that today we may all be in agreement with this community engagement plan, but when I leave, like you just said, as people leave, if this can be kind of ingrained as this is how we're doing it, why we're doing it, what we're doing it, when new people come in, hopefully they can get up to speed to where it's not by the time it's the end of the bid before they really finally have a relationship with their neighborhoods. So that's just my idea off the top of my head, but I definitely think it's worth a conversation and a brainstorming session. Completely agree.
Thank you.
And I will add to that although there is a bid change for the most part every year, there is consistency too in a lot of the officers and more experienced officers, because when you look at the way the bids run, generally you have those officers that do a lot of their career within those area commands. There's officers, like in my area command, that have been in my area command for a very long time, and they always choose to go back. Same thing with the Southeast. You see a lot of Southeast officers that have, from day one been in the Southeast, and they continue to stay there, and some of them throughout their whole career. So when it comes to those younger officers, we're pretty fortunate in that sense that we still have those other officers that have been there that are able to guide them through some of the issues and the concerns within those area commands. Ideally, obviously, would be that, hey, if we could keep the officers in that area command, all the officers in that area command, then there would be a lot more of that, you know, the community and department relationships would be, you know, they would be much better, obviously, because all those officers would get to know their community members a lot more. But I think there is some consistency with a lot of the officers that end up staying in those same area commands for years.
Thank you, Commander. Do we have other questions, either from the community or from the panel? All right, well, yes, ma'am.
Commander Langwood, I understand that this is a draft plan. When do you suppose you might be willing to share this with community members? Would you be willing to share it as it is right now?
So I think I can speak to that effect. So we have had those discussions. So one of the things with this plan, the reason that we sent it to the community policing councils is because we wanted input. Because as a council, you know, you represent a lot of the community within your area command, and you speak on behalf of the community. We have not made the decision to actually release that publicly. And this is the reason why we're having to look at it, because this plan, this was really considered more of an internal plan for the area commanders that keeps them on track when it comes to public information and engagement. And it allows us, this plan can change pretty quickly within each area command as, you know, certain things change. And so we haven't quite made that determination. We, you know, as with anything else, when you have something like a plan like this that is very, you know, because it is in a sense, it's not as detailed because it does change quite a bit, and it allows the commanders and their staff to be able to change it and change their strategies within that plan. So, you know, we haven't quite determined whether it would go public necessarily or not. Because again, this was the idea with this was we need to give something for the command staff and the area commanders to be able to work with and have that standard and have it standardized throughout the area commands. I don't know if that makes sense necessarily, because we do run into the concern as you know, if we have what works in the southeast is not going to work in the northwest, and the issue, you know, right or wrong, it will become an issue where we start, you know, we have a specific way to address certain things in, let's say, the southeast that just won't work in the northwest. The concern is going to be, well, why are we not implementing all these other things that are being implemented in the southeast into the northwest? So those are a lot of the questions that we have when we do this. You know, when we do finally make that determination, we want to make sure that we do it right. And so that's kind of where we are with this right now.
I was hoping, and again, like the chief had said, you know, thank you so much for your service, for what you're doing, being part of the community policing councils. I put my information in the chat, and that is my direct number. That's the only phone I carry. I was hoping if there aren't like Susie, your idea about what about language without, you know, if there are any ideas, again, on how we're getting out information, how we're receiving information, how we're engaging with community specific to our culturally diverse community here in the Southeast, please get a hold of me, you know, so we can chat and I can make any changes if changes need to be made.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander Sanchez. Lieutenant Garcia. and of course, Commander Langet. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding this? No. All right. Thank you all. That was very informative. All right. Well, we will get down to our last few items on our agenda. And we actually I don't believe we have any old business. I know, Mike, you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about doodle survey. Is that something you want to, that is going out to the community or for us?
It was just for the in-between monthly planning meetings that we've talked about. And I sent that in a doodle poll invitation out. It's not for the community.
Okay.
So it's in your mailboxes by now.
Okay.
And
Cool.
if we decide that there's a date and sufficient topics to discuss, then it'll be up to you to call the meeting.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have anything else that I've missed that you wanted to add? All right. Well, then I will adjourn our meeting here just 9 minutes early.
Guess we'll see everybody at the block party or see you all next year, I guess.
Yep. At the block party or next month at the dinner.
That's
Or the-
right.
That's right, the dinner. Wow.
November 18th. CPC.
Oh, Kelly,
Yes.
can you add me on the dinner because I'm planning to go, but I might be a little bit late.
Okay, will do. And I want to see everybody at Endorphin Power Company. I'm going to be a little late because we'll have the council chairs, but
Cool.
all righty.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
evening.
Thank
Nice.
you.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Kelly,